What does Escape the Backrooms hide off camera in the 4th chapter of Levels? From a remodeled mess to a chase through a hotel to navigating some deadly water and visiting a school, among others. Escape the Backrooms is a co-op dive into liminal terror, and the Part 4 update has added a ton of new levels and entities to this already nightmarish experience. With 7 new entities and 9 fresh levels to explore, our adventures in the Backrooms just got a bit more complicated. Today, we'll be pulling the curtain back and taking a look at things we're not meant to see, like how the windows work off camera. There's lots to be broken as well, including a bug that breaks the clump entirely. I'll be recapping each level as we get to it, that way we're all refreshed on everything we'll be covering. With that said, I hope you enjoyed today's dive into Escape the Backrooms. Now, whether you're running for your life while retrieving some precious scrap, or trying to survive the entities in the Backrooms, it's not hard to see the impact that the SCP Foundation has made on the games and tales of today. The SCP Foundation is a community-driven collection of eerie and unsettling documentations on anomalies that haunt our world. Previously, Poolrooms released some super cool art books highlighting these chilling tales. Kickstarter supporters may also remember a bonus comic they were given called We Who Poke with Sticks. But now, Poolrooms has embarked on something new. 5 new comics featuring the iconic SCPs Plague Doctor, Expunged Data Release, Red Sea Object, Old Man, and Reluctant Dimension Hopper. Live now on Kickstarter. These comics are beautifully illustrated and come in a special case with a magnetic flap. The deluxe edition is embellished in red foil and even has a sound chip for when you open the lid. Each comic is beautifully crafted and is the perfect way to enjoy an alternative look at these chilling stories. The Kickstarter has plenty of stretch goals for pins, stickers, and acrylic stands too. Follow the link in the description to get this beautiful set and support Poolrooms so they can continue creating SCP projects for us. The Kickstarter campaign ends on June 7th, so get yours before it's too late. And a big thanks to Poolrooms for sponsoring this video and supporting me as a horror creator on YouTube. So as some of you may recall, this game's previous ending took place on level 3999. Because this is no longer the case, the arcade area has been updated a little bit as well. Instead of a long dead-end hallway, there is now a small area at the end where an elevator can be found. When viewed from an outside perspective, we can compare this level to its previous version and see just how much of it has changed. In order to move on from this location, we'll have to grab a ticket and punch the printed numbers into the elevator, thus leading us to level 0.2, Remodeled Mess. Once here, we have to find a way to reach the elevator in front of us. There's just one issue though. There's a huge entity known as the Bone Thief in the tunnel beside us, and it will eat us alive if we try to pass through. But heading down this hallway, we'll find a large maze and several locked doors. And in order to progress, we'll have to jump through these no-clipping floors and into level 0.1, the Danger Zone. These sub-levels are pretty similar, and when opening a door in the Danger Zone, it will then be unlocked up above. We then head back through the no-clipping floors and power on the electrical boxes, as this can't be done down below. The Danger Zone is inhabited by a skin stealer and several smilers, so you'll have to be alert when down here. After all 5 boxes are powered, we can shut the gate and bypass the Bone Thief. Let's rewind time now though, and have another look at this location. Now the very first thing I wanted to investigate was the no-clipping floors themselves. From the player's perspective, they're almost staticky in appearance, but this effect is a bit more interesting than you'd first realize. We can see that they don't directly lead anywhere, as there's nothing connected to them and they lead directly out of bounds. When slowing the game down, we can see that the static effect is pulled off in a pretty clever way. In bullet time, you'll see that there are what look like several different textures placed here that move in different directions. And the static appearance is a result of this Z-fighting taking place with these materials. Essentially, there are multiple surfaces trying to occupy the same location, and as a result, they will flicker endlessly. This is of course visually enhanced by the textures themselves moving opposite to one another. When viewing this map from a different angle, we can see that level 0.1 is placed a short distance beneath 0.2. There are a couple differences between them, including a few walls and some hallways, but besides this, they're actually quite similar. When the player steps into one of the no-clipping floors, they'll fall through the map before instantly warping to the corresponding location down below. Next, something I was curious about is this taped off section in the main lobby area. It appears to be the same as the other no-clipping floors, but it's blocked off so we can't walk onto it. We can manually delete this caution tape though, and in doing so we'll find this purely cosmetic, and we'll walk over top of it normally. Speaking of taped off areas, there's a section of what looks like level 0 just off to the side, and we can't typically access it. Moving the camera inside, you can see that it's fully modeled in here, but it simply comes to a wall on the other side. Now I'm sure you're all curious about the Bone Thief and exactly how they work off camera. So the moment moment you cross into their sightline, they'll immediately lunge out and grab you. This looks a bit silly when viewed from a different angle. As we can see, they'll just slide across the floor in the direction of the player. They have these stubby little legs and a massive mouth, and they're almost whale-like in appearance. In bullet time, this jump scare is especially freaky, as we can clearly see the eyes hidden deep within their jaws. If we clip the camera through their model, we can see the rest of their eyeballs inside their model as well. As they swallow the player, our death model will be instantly warped elsewhere. Its mouth opens up again, and their eyes become wide as they slink out of view. Brightening up this area, we can find the player's corpse in this monster's idle location, as well as getting a good look at this normally unseen location. Before moving on, I wanted to know if it were possible to outrun the Bone Thief. So, I walked into their line of sight to trigger the attack, and then warped the player all the way across the map. This did not detour the beast though, and it clipped through all the walls and headed straight for me. We were then swallowed up and taken all the way back to the tunnel. That's it for this level though, so let's jump into the elevator and continue onward. So immediately after taking the elevator, we arrive at level 6.1, the Snackrooms. This area functions as sort of an intermission and a place to restock on supplies for what follows. There's not much to recap here, as we simply type a code into a typewriter to unlock the door, but I felt it was necessary to mention. The only thing we can see off camera here is the elevator, which is seen dropping down out of sight, where it freezes in place after passing through this shadowy barrier. Back inside the map, we head through the exit, which brings us to the next level, the hotel chase. As we head into this gargantuan maze of a hotel, our path is blocked by these metal gates. We step on the world's heaviest doormat to open up one of the paths, which leads us to a lever on the wall. As we reach it, a clump will spawn in and begin chasing the player through the hallways. From here, we must navigate this area in search of an exit, all the while avoiding the barrage of obstacles along the way. After reaching a safe spot and finding a chainsaw, we use it to open a door, where the second half of the chase begins. Throughout this level, there are several dead ends occupied by smilers, so it's imperative that we make as few mistakes as possible. After reaching the blue room at the end, we will arrive at the entrance to the following level. Restarting the hotel chase, we can have a look at this entire map and see just how many twists and turns we're truly dealing with. There are several dead ends within this area, and only a couple of places where we can catch our breath. In the very first hallway, there's the pressure plate that we use to open the door, and just beyond it, we can see that the floor extends out of bounds a short way. Something else you'll notice is that most of the doors we run past do not lead anywhere either. However, they are blocked by these shadowy boxes, so we cannot see anything past them when they open. On the other end of this entrance area, we'll find the shadowy hallway that the clump begins chasing us from. It turns out that they're already loaded in just beyond this black barrier, and when the game is unpaused, we can see that their animations are already active as well. They're pretty creepy looking though, with a dozen or so hands extending from their body and a mouth full of giant teeth. It's hard to get a good look at them when they're chasing you, and I'm starting to think that's probably for the best. Now, as the player enters this hallway and approaches the lever, the trigger will be hit and the clump begins relentlessly chasing the player. As they draw near, we can have a look at their jump scare animation in bullet time. As this occurs, we can see that they simply pick the player up and then shove them into their mouth. As I'm sure you're aware, the player then explodes as usual. After giving chase, we eventually come to the first blue room, which is an area the clump cannot access. From here, the clump passes us by and heads into the side hallway. And following them with the camera reveals a couple of things. For starters, they'll simply stop moving after passing through the black barrier, where they'll remain dormant indefinitely. I also found a smiler here as well, and there's a reason for this. When entering the wrong hallway, a smiler will lunge out of the darkness and chase us in the opposite direction, pushing us directly into the clump. These smilers are actually present in several hallways here, and they all serve the same purpose, preventing you from going the wrong way. I would have preferred a wrong way sign, but you do you, game. Moving the camera to the following hallway, we can head to the end where a separate clump can be found already loaded in. I had assumed that the previous entity will be moved to this hallway, but it turns out there's more than one clump present in this map at any given time. With this clump, however, I wanted to test a theory. What would happen if we managed to get behind them in this tiny hallway? When warping the player behind them, they'll simply turn around and chase us into their spawn location. I had assumed this entity would work like the smilers on Pipe Dreams, but these creatures are not limited to a set path. Wherever the player goes, an ever-changing path is generated that leads the clump to our location. But due to this, we can break them in a pretty funny way. As we enter this lobby area, we can jump onto several couches, making it impossible for an enemy to reach us. If we stand on the center platform, they can still get to us, but these couches tell the clump's AI that we are completely inaccessible, Probably because the couch's collider interferes with the navigational mesh of the monster. I find it incredibly funny that a simple piece of furniture can break such a monstrous creature. If the player is warped onto the balcony, the same thing will take place. The clump continues on to the end of the level, as though we've already reached safety. That's it for the hotel chase, so let's continue on to level 188, the Courtyard of Windows. As we head into this larger hotel lobby, there's a massive open area lined with windows that we must gain access to. To do so, 3 TV sets must be found and placed in the correct spots in front of these windows. To locate them, we'll have to take the elevator up a floor and begin searching the dozens of hotel rooms and their bathrooms. We'll face 2 lethal entities on this map as well, including the Aranea Membri, a massive spider-like entity that will chase us when spotted. In each hotel room, there's also a chance that a window entity will appear in the, window. It's a humanoid entity with glowing eyes and elongated claws that will snatch us up if we get too close. After each TV is in its proper place, the door will open and we can jump down into this hole, leading us to the next level. Rewinding time, there are a few things we can check out about the map itself. There is nothing beneath the pit we jump into, and it simply leads into the void. Aside from this, there are 2 other sections to this map, including a hub entrance and a door that we can't typically access. We're usually stopped by this level's entity, so we can't see inside, but moving the camera, we'll find that there's nothing in here anyway. We'll be coming back here in a little bit, but for now let's take a look at the other floor. As we head into the elevator, we can watch from the outside as it begins rising and the first floor unloads. When reaching the top, this next section will be loaded in before the door opens, making it appear as a seamless transition. While having a look around, the first thing you'll notice is that the windows here are the same as the smaller version of level 188. They're not physical rooms, but instead flat projections that change in appearance based on the camera's position. Among these false windows are a small office with red lighting, an empty office space with a sign that says "Register Now" on the window, a cozy looking bedroom, and finally what I believe is a conference room. On this floor, we can have a closer look at the Aranea Membri, as it's already begun trekking the halls. It's a jet black, spider-like creature with what looks like an animal skull for a head. It roams the hallways in search of the player, and they definitely don't make it easy moving these giant TV sets around. As I said earlier, this isn't the only entity present on this map either, as the window entities can spawn in whenever we enter a hotel room. Typically, we can only see their silhouette and their eyes, since we can't exactly get a closer look without dying. Here, I move the camera outside the window before activating their trigger, and we can see that they'll load in just below the player's view as a black box begins fading in around them. Up close, we can see that their skin is extremely scaly, and their eyes also have a similar appearance, making them look almost like the eyes of a bug. Their mouth almost looks like it's stitched closed, with all of this resulting in one creepy entity. We can also view their jump scare from a different perspective, and in bolt time, we'll see that the window shatters instantly. They'll snap into this reaching animation where they put their hands around the player's neck, and after we blow up into little pieces, this creature will return to their idle pose and slink back down out of sight before unloading. In summary, they'll break the window to strangle us, refuse to elaborate, and then float away. Glorious! Now, back on the first floor, when the player attempts to enter this glowing room, the Aranea Membri will drop down from a vent and chase us into the giant pit. From another angle, we can see that this entity just blinks into existence, clipping through this T-shaped vent. They then directly pursue the player, and here, we can also have a look at their jump scare. They draw back before chomping at us, and after we've died, they'll walk on top of our body and do the spider equivalent of T-posing. So after taking a leap of faith into this giant, seemingly bottomless pit, we land in the entrance to level 37.2. This is an enormous version of the Poolrooms area we've explored previously, but here we'll face a lot more dangers. As we enter this area, we'll find a pool infected by Hydrolytis plague, a bacteria that slowly kills whoever comes in contact with it. Our goal here is to hop into a raft and reach the end of the level, but it's a bit more difficult than that. There are several blockades that we need to bypass, and how we do this varies for each step. Most notably, we enter these dark poolroom areas to open several valves, and we'll have to avoid the clumps patrolling each location as we do so. Reaching the end of the waterway, we'll climb a staircase before choosing a slide to enter, bringing this level to a close. Now, rewinding time, we can have a better look at this massive waterlogged area. The very first thing I wanted to check out though is the water infected by the Hydrolytis plague, because for obvious reasons, we can't get too close during regular gameplay. The bacteria-infected water is a bit darker in appearance, and when viewed up close, we can see this green, cloudy substance inside. We can also see the bacteria itself morphing inside, reshaping as it appears and disappears throughout. So after heading down this massive slide, I had discovered that when pausing and unpausing the game, my raft would bounce straight up out of the water. I wasn't able to skip the blockades this way, but it was definitely funny to see. Before entering the first of the dark pool rooms, I teleported the raft out of the water, but I was unfortunately unable to move it up here. So I abandoned the raft and continued onward. To explain a bit further, when we're inside these dark pool room areas, we must fill these small tanks using the valves placed throughout the level. It's pretty easy to get turned around here, which is not a good thing, considering a clump is roaming around in search of the player. Unlike the hotel chase, the clumps here don't need to be activated. They're already patrolling from the moment we load in. Usually we can jump across the pool to avoid them, but that makes things a little too easy. So, to make things a little more exciting, I decided to spawn in almost a dozen more. I was expecting them to scatter throughout the map, but they all surprisingly clumped together. It didn't take long for them to get stuck, and after gaining their attention, they broke free from their stun lock and began chasing me. In hindsight, diving into the pool was probably not the best idea, as I quickly became surrounded. At this point, I had to wait for them to move elsewhere, and most of them did, but a couple stayed behind to wait for me. I finally found an opening and used it to get to safety, but I immediately ran into a clump, killing me instantly. Now, after opening each valve, I returned to the raft, where I came to the giant hole. I wasn't ready to face another clump though, so I just warped across without activating the valves, which saved me a lot of time. Here we come to yet another blockade, this time requiring us to drain the water instead of raising it. I decided side quests are for nerds though, and destroy the barrier instead, but that's when something interesting happened. For some reason, gravity chose not to exist, and our emergency raft became an improvised flying machine. None of the level's barriers meant anything new, because we simply flew right over top of them, including the bacteria-infected waters. When jumping out of the boat though, gravity kicked back in, and we dropped down to the floor below. I wasn't finished with my invention yet though, so I got back on and began deleting the walls in my way. Unfortunately, the collider for the raft had broken somehow, and we can no longer get inside. Collateral damage is expected when hacking the backrooms though, and I accidentally broke some of the walls in this final room, as well as the staircase we need to leave. Before heading into the next level, we can have a look at these slides as well, and we'll see that they just end up outside the map. That's it for the expanded pool rooms though, so let's take the slide into the subsequent area, Level Fun Plus. The slides will drop us off into the ball pit of this eerie party hall, and just ahead we'll find a room with 5 hallways. There's a giant gate in front that must be unlocked using an arcade game, and we must collect 4 keys from the surrounding areas. Again, this is a pretty lengthy part of the game with too much to recap immediately, so we'll cover each area as we go. Heading down the blue hallway, we'll arrive at a huge room occupied by tables and balloons, as well as a big dining area in the center. To obtain this area's key, we'll carefully traverse this location and pop balloons, as this is where the key is hidden. There are tons of areas to check, and there are multiple partygoers patrolling the area, so we'll have to be careful. From an aerial view, we can get a good look at this area's layout. There are a handful of walls and cubbies where tables containing balloons can be found, but there isn't a whole lot for us to check out here. So, to make things a bit more interesting, I decided to tackle this level after shrinking the player down. This area looks a lot bigger this way, but it's actually a little easier to evade the partygoers since I no longer need to duck beneath the tables. Popping the balloons is a bit more difficult though, since they're not only hard to reach, but I can't see when the partygoers are approaching either. After hiding under this table, something odd happened. This particular partygoer seems to have just broken. They're just standing next to this doorway completely still, and because of this, I was reluctant to run out. It turns out they're fully broken though, and they never gave chase at all. I found the key hidden in the very back of the dining area, and from here it was just a matter of escaping. Fortunately, the entities made it easy, and I made it out without a hitch. After dropping our key into the machine, we'll head into the pink hallway so we can obtain the next. This section is actually pretty easy to complete, as all we do is play a quick game of Simon Says using the television and some balloons. At this point, I decided to skip the minigame entirely, because this is HorrorScoped after all. So, by deleting the locked door, we can just waltz in to collect our key like we own the place. No puzzles required. However, I was curious what would happen if we played the game anyways, and to no one's surprise, nothing happened. I don't know what I expected, but it was probably this. Back in the lobby, I decided to run down this dark blue hallway for the next key. In order to reach the end of this level, we'll have to use these fireworks and throw them at the party hosts. This entity appears to be a cake with an eyeball that can be found on the walls and ceiling of this area. Anytime they spot us, they'll alert the partygoers to our location, where they'll then run out to these locked doors to chase us. After reaching this room at the end, we can grab the key and return to the lobby to complete this section. Restarting this area, there are a couple of things I wanted to check out. First, I was curious what was behind the doors that the partygoers will attack from. In this entrance, this boarded-up door does not lead us anywhere, and it's completely empty inside. So, when the party host spots the player, these entities will load in behind the locked doors and sprint out at us. The room itself doesn't have anything in it besides 2 windows and a couple of posters. I wanted to try to make this area safe, but because the partygoers weren't always loaded in, I can't just delete them. I can, however, delete the floor where they appear, and as you can see, they'll fall straight into the void. Knowing this, I delete some more pieces of flooring in front of the doors ahead, and when loading in, they'll run straight into the hole. Though they'll keep coming back endlessly, we are completely safe here. At the end section of the level, I did this again, which made the whole process a lot easier. Because my pitfall trap was keeping the entities at bay, I could just grab the key and leave. Finally, there is the red hallway, and here we'll arrive at a neon-styled arcade. Our main objective is to illuminate a set of symbols found in the map using colored glow sticks. There are several hallways to explore, and our only enemy is a lone partygoer who patrols the upstairs area. This area is pretty hard to navigate because of how dark it is, but with the lights turned on, it's a little easier to see. One of the first things I noticed was a hallway in the back that I initially missed, and inside is a wall that says, "Don't turn around." Nothing happens when we turn around though, and when viewed from another angle, there's nothing seen behind us. So suffice to say, we've been successfully pranked. There's really not much to see in this level, so instead of hunting for the symbols, I completely bypass the need to go upstairs by once again breaking the door. I then return to the main party area to use my keys, and after opening the gate, we arrive at level 52, the school halls. Here we enter the hallways of a dimly lit school. We suddenly meet up with a party pooper here, and this is the first truly friendly entity we've met in this game. They're wearing a mask with a hoodie over top, and they'll basically just lead us through the school area safely, preventing us from being attacked by the surrounding party goers. This level isn't all that big, but it is full of threats at every turn. With the lights turned on, I turned my attention to the party pooper. I was curious if there was anything beyond their mask, and to my surprise, there is what looks like a human inside. They are textured jet black, and they have noticeable features such as eyes and hair. We're not the only ones susceptible to partygoers here, as the party pooper can also be caught and killed on this level, and it's honestly super funny. When our enemies are alerted, they'll attack both the player and our friend here, but rather than exploding, they'll fly around the room violently. Somehow they managed to transcend time as well, because even though the game is running at 1/10 its normal speed, this sequence plays out as normal. They look like a deflating balloon whipping around the room aimlessly, making for one glorious death animation. Because of this level's linear progression, there's not a whole lot for us to see off camera, so we're going to head upstairs and into what is now the final level in Escape the Backrooms, level 55.1. Entering the tunnel level, there are several resources for us to snag, alongside the main tool we'll be using throughout this location, a photo camera. Here, we ride this elevator down multiple levels, taking pictures of each subject the camera displays. First, there is some text on a wall, followed by a blockaded entrance to level 0. Next is the Icy Rooms, where we must find and photograph a broken down van, and then snag a picture of the howler that's roaming this floor. At the bottom, we'll have to take a picture of 3 Moai statues and then a skin stealer, all the while avoiding an army of smilers hunting us down. When viewed from another angle, this map actually looks pretty cool. Each of the areas we are meant to explore are stacked on top of each other, all built around the elevator shaft in the center. Something you'll immediately notice is that each of these individual sections will be mostly unloaded until the camera is brought down to its level. This is to prevent unnecessary strain on your machine, and as we fly around, we can watch as each one populates. If we fly down to level 0.11, you can see that each of the entities we encounter here are already loaded in. This includes a handful of smilers and a single untransformed skin stealer. When unpaused, they'll simply roam this area aimlessly, waiting to come in contact with the player. I went ahead and started taking photos on level 0.2, and when moving the camera around, I accidentally unload this floor entirely, sending me flying into the void uncontrollably. Restarting the level, I then headed back to the Remodeled Mess and destroyed the barrier blocking our entry. We can run around this pillared room as much as we want, but I didn't realize a pretty big mistake had been made. When deleting the caution tape, I somehow broke this area and could no longer photograph it to continue. So I had to restart the level once again before I could properly take the picture and move on. Heading down to 0.3, the Icy Rooms, we can see that the Howler, also known as the Bacteria, is now present and patrolling this floor. I wasn't able to locate this entity previously, nor could I find it anywhere out of bounds, so I'm assuming they loaded in when I took the elevator down here. This howler behaves like the version we saw in level 0.11, as it will only give chase when it spots the player. Otherwise, they will explore endlessly. I figured it'd be easier to get a photo of this creature by leading it to the elevator, but for some reason it wouldn't trigger until I raised the elevator up and it walked away. Now, when the player finishes capturing each of the required pictures, a grate will open above the elevator, which gives us access to another floor. Heading up there, we'll find a grassy, overgrown room that appears similar to level 0. There are 2 inaccessible doors, as well as a staticky TV, but only the door in front of us leads anywhere. Jumping into this bright light begins a cutscene where the player begins falling from the sky, and as this cutscene ends, the credits will roll. We can see that as this area loads in, it will appear just above the entrance, connected to the main elevator shaft. Inside the grassy room, we can see that the doors surrounding us don't lead anywhere at all, and the bright room behind the doors is simply a small white hole that we jump down into. Unfortunately, the cutscene itself is only a video file, meaning we cannot move the camera around within it. What's funny though, is that the player is actually still able to move around when the final cutscene is playing, and we're now stuck down here with nowhere to go. It's preferable to falling thousands of feet to the ground, but there's not a whole lot of places we can go from here. And with that completes our journey through the latest Escape the Backrooms levels. I hope you enjoyed this breakdown, subscribe if you did, and I'll see you in my next glorious game break soon. Cheers!